Hello everyone. So for today's lesson, we're going to discuss the signs of the 6 trigonometric functions. And we have titled our presentation as It Must Be a Sine. We should bear in mind that a trigonometric functions or evaluating a trigonometric function means getting these two important things, numerical value and the sign. If we recall the 6 trigonometric functions associated with the coordinates x, y, we have the cosine theta, which is equal to x, sine theta, which is equal to y, secant theta is equal to 1 over x, cosecant theta is 1 over y, tangent theta is equal to y over x, and cotangent theta is equal to x over y. We also recall that secant theta, which is 1 over x, can be written as 1 over cosine theta, meaning it's the reciprocal of cosine theta. Cosecant theta can also be written as 1 over sine theta, meaning sine and cosecant are reciprocal functions. Tangent theta can be written as sine theta over cosine theta, and cotangent theta can be written as cosine theta over sine theta, being the reciprocal of tangent theta. Yan. So, for quadrant 1, we have x positive and y positive. So, that means all trigonometric functions will be positive. In quadrant 2, we have x values being negative and y positive. So, ano yung mga y values natin? Sino ang affected niyan? We have the sine theta and the cosecant theta. So, they are the ones that are only positive in quadrant 2. So, that will be sine and cosecant. Okay? In quadrant 3, we have both x and y being negative. So, that means which trigonometric functions will be positive? If both x and y are negative, we have this fraction. Remember, fraction is positive when both numerator and denominator have the same sign. So in the case of tangent theta and cotangent theta, since both of its numerator and denominator are negative, that means tangent theta as well as cotangent theta will be positive. Okay. In quadrant 4, we have x positive and y negative. Okay. So, x being positive means we have this, okay? So, that means only the cosine theta and its corresponding reciprocal function, secant theta, will be the ones that are positive, okay? So, to remember this more easily, we have this. In quadrant 1, we have all trigonometric functions being positive. In quadrant 2, we have the sine and its corresponding reciprocal function, which is cosecant function, which are the ones that are only positive in quadrant 2. In quadrant 3, we have 3 starts with letter T. So we have the tangent function. So that means only the tangent function and its corresponding reciprocal function, which is cotangent theta or cotangent function, that are the ones positive. Okay. In quadrant 4, we have the cosine theta and its reciprocal function secant theta, which are positive. Okay. So I'm writing here the basic trigonometric function, the 3 basic ones which appear in our calculator, the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. So it will be understood that the corresponding reciprocal function of this will be positive. Okay. So, to help remember this more easily, let's have our annotation. We have for this quadrant 1, we have all. For quadrant 2, we have students. For quadrant 3, take. And for quadrant 4, we have calculus. So, all students take calculus. To remember that here, we have all trigo functions are positive, sine and cosecant function are positive, tangent and cotangent function are positive, cosine and secant function are positive. Don't mistaken this letter as a sine and secant function, since sine and secant are not reciprocal function. And also don't mistaken this C here as cosine, cosecant, and cotangent function, because again, those are not reciprocal functions, just the cosine and the secant function, okay, are the only ones positive on the fourth quadrant. So for example, if cosine x is positive, tangent x is negative, on what quadrant does x lie? Okay, so tangent negative, since one of the given functions is negative, that means it can no longer be in quadrant 1. So that means it's only the cosine that is positive as well as its reciprocal function. So that will be in quadrant 4. So our answer here is quadrant 4. What about this one? If cosine is positive and tangent is positive, on what quadrant does the angle x lie? Okay. Cosine and tangent are both positive, but they are not reciprocal functions, and that can only happen in quadrant 1. So quadrant 1 is where the angle x lies. Okay. What about if secant is negative and cotangent is negative? So we know these are not reciprocal functions. They are not related as reciprocals, meaning they, aside from quadrant 1, they have different signs in the other 3 quadrants. Since both are negative, that means x or theta rather cannot be in quadrant 1. Since in quadrant 1, all are positive. Okay. Second being negative, it means cannot be in quadrant 4. Cotangent being negative, meaning that means theta cannot be in quadrant 3. So quadrant 2 is the only possible answer. Okay. What about here? What's your answer here? If tangent theta is negative and cotangent theta is negative, on what quadrant does theta lie? What's your answer there? Okay. We know these are reciprocal functions, but since both are negative, it cannot be on quadrant 1. Okay. Tangent and cotangent negative, so that means can also be in quadrant 3. Okay. So the only possible answers will be in quadrant 2 or quadrant 4. Okay. Those quadrants are where tangent and cotangent functions are both negative. Okay. What about this one? What is the sign of sine 1058 degrees? So since this angle is greater than 360 degrees, that means we're going to move along our circle several times. Let's see how many times. So if we move once in a counterclockwise direction, since we are given with a positive angle, we have 360 degrees. Okay. Moving again, move muna ulit tayo, ikot ulit tayo, we have another 360 degrees. So 360 plus 360, that means we have 720 degrees. Again, if we move again, complete the revolution along the unit circle, we have 720 plus 360, that means we have 1080 degrees. Medyo sumobra tayo sa 1058 degrees. So that means we need to subtract from here. Okay? So how many degrees are we going to subtract to get 1058 degrees? If your answer is 22 degrees, you are correct. So 1080 minus 22 degrees, that will give us 1058 degrees. But since this is negative, that means we'll be moving in a clockwise direction from this. Okay. So again, we recall that this 1080 degrees, 360 degrees, as well as 720 degrees are all coterminal angles of 0. Okay, 0 degrees. So that means from this point, we have to move clockwise. Negative 22 degrees will be in here, somewhere in quadrant 4. So since negative 22 degrees or 1058 degrees is in quadrant 4, only the cosine and secant function will be the ones that are positive here. Therefore, sine 10, 58 degrees will be negative. Okay, so what is the sine of secant negative 910 degrees? Since this is negative, that means we'll be moving in a clockwise direction. So from this initial point clockwise, we have this movement. So punta tayo pabalik, we have negative 360 degrees, coterminal with 0 degrees. So another movement clockwise, ikot ulit tayo. That means we have to add another negative 360. So we have negative 720 degrees. Okay? Alam natin, sa sobra na tayo ng 1,000 if we're going to add negative 360 degrees. So, how many degrees are we going to add or subtract from negative 720 to get negative 910? So, if your answer is negative 190 degrees, you are correct. Okay? So, negative 190 degrees is again negative. So, from this initial point, or this initial point, probably, we'll be moving clockwise. Okay, since this is a negative angle. So, we need to go past through negative 180. So, lalampas pa siya kasi negative 190 to. So, lalampasan natin si negative 180. So, that means konti na lang, negative 10 na lang ang kulang. Dito na siya magpo-fall sa second quadrant. Okay? So, that means negative 190 degrees or negative 910 degrees is on the second quadrant. Which functions are positive on the second quadrant? Only the sine and cosecant function are the ones positive. So, therefore, secant of negative 910 or secant of negative 190 degrees are negative. Okay? So, negative tayo doon kasi nasa second quadrant, sine and cosecant lang ang positive. See to this example, negative 14 pi over 5. We have the option to convert this to degrees, but if we want to stick to the pi radians, another way of writing this is this one. Negative 14 pi over 5, yan. Writing it as a sum or difference of two fractions, it's equal to negative 20 pi over 5 plus 6 pi over 5, correct? What's the significance of this negative 20 pi over 5? This is equivalent to negative 4 pi. 20 is divisible by 5. So we look for a number for the numerator that is a multiple of 5, and that is 20. We can actually have 15 actually, kaya lang it's not an even multiple. It will not be an even multiple of pi kasi 15 over 5 is 3. Whereas this one is an even multiple of pi. Okay? What's the significance of that? Diba? If it's an even multiple of pi, it will be coterminal with 0 degrees. Okay? So since this is negative, we'll be moving on a clockwise direction. So this will be negative 2 pi. Another ikot pa. We have negative 4 pi. And ayun, yun yung si negative 20 pi over 5. Okay? But we need to add this. Okay? Since this is positive, ang movement natin will be what? Correct. It will be counterclockwise. So, move tayo ng counterclockwise. Lalampasan natin si pi over 2. Lalampasan natin yung pi since this is more than 1. This is more than 1 pi. 6/5 is an improper fraction. Okay? So, that means we'll be having 6 pi over 5 on the third quadrant. Okay? Since negative 14 pi over 5 is coterminal with 6 pi over 5, that means dito tayo sa third quadrant. Ano? What is the sign of cotangent on the third quadrant? It is positive. Okay? So, yun. That's how we get the sign of the trigonometric functions. And my last few words will be, stay positive, enjoy your day.